You know all those weird Mars photos everyone loves? The spoon, the face on Mars, those blueberries they found a while back. Those really get people thinking. But today we're going to do a duck dive into something a little bit different.
Okay.
It was this 2023 article we saw about what they're calling a bone-like rock structure that the Curiosity Rover took a picture of.
Oh, wow.
And this isn't like those blurry overexposed things.
Right.
This is a sharp image, and it has scientists kind of confused.
Yeah, I can see why that would be interesting.
Yeah. So what do you make of it?
Well, the image shows a rock with all these long, thin spikes coming out of it, and they're casting some really clear shadows.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
And it's the sharpness of these spikes that really stands out to me. They almost look like spines, and that's not what we usually see here on Earth.
Right, it's different from those round, kind of bulbous formations we're used to.
Exactly.
So the article mentions these things called sand spikes.
Okay.
And apparently those can form here on Earth, but it takes a really strong earthquake.
Wow, yeah, like a magnitude 7 or higher.
Yeah, something like that.
Strong stuff.
And they even talk about the Nördlinger Ries crater in Germany.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, it has some similar formations.
Interesting.
So maybe it's the same kind of thing on Mars.
Well, that's a good place to start, but
Yeah.
the article points out one big difference.
Okay, what's that?
The spikes on Mars don't have those rounded ends like the sand spikes we see here.
Oh, so they're pointier.
Exactly, they're much sharper.
Uh-huh.
And that might be because the geology on Mars is just completely different.
Oh, right, like the conditions there are nothing like Earth.
Yeah, you've got lower gravity, a thinner atmosphere, and the soil and bedrock are completely different. All that stuff plays a role in how those structures could form.
So even if it is a sand spike, it's like a Martian version,
You could say that.
shaped by a totally different environment.
Right. It's kind of like a unique geological fingerprint.
Okay, that makes sense. But
Yeah.
what about space debris?
Well, that's a good point.
Like, we've left so much junk in space over the years, and the article mentions that there have been at least 10 crashes on Mars.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff.
Over 7,000 kilograms of debris
Yeah.
scattered all over the place.
Wow.
So couldn't those spikes just be from some old piece of a crashed lander?
Well, the article addresses that, and they have some pretty convincing arguments against it.
Okay, I'm listening.
So first of all, there's no debris field around this rock formation. If something crashed there, you'd expect to see pieces scattered around, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But there's nothing like that here.
So no signs of an impact.
Right, and also the spikes themselves are really small,
Okay,
and we haven't really designed anything for our Mars missions that looks like that.
right.
It just doesn't seem logical to make something with that shape for a spacecraft.
So we can probably rule out debris then.
It seems likely.
Okay, so we've got these Martian sand spikes that are kind of different from the ones on Earth.
Yeah,
And we're pretty sure it's not debris.
right.
So what else do the scientists think about?
Well, they mentioned that there could be some really unique erosion patterns happening on Mars.
Okay.
Or maybe it's some kind of unusual mineral formation. I
Hmm,
mean, think about it. We've only explored like a tiny part of Mars.
that's true.
There's so much we don't know.
Yeah, we could easily find something we've never seen before.
Exactly.
So it could be totally natural,
Yeah.
but just totally unlike anything we've ever seen.
Exactly, and that's why we need more investigation.
Right. Like, we need more information.
We need to analyze the rocks, the terrain, compare it to other things on Mars.
Yeah, it's like we need a Martian geologist.
Yeah, someone who can really get in there and figure it out.
Someone on site.
Exactly, and that's what's so cool about missions like Curiosity,
Right. There are eyes on Mars.
where rover has all these instruments that can tell us so much about the environment.
And the article mentioned that Curiosity has already seen some pretty weird stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Maybe this isn't even the strangest thing it's found.
You're probably right.
But it makes you think, how do we know what's just unusual and what's like a huge discovery?
That's a great question.
Like, how do we know if it's evidence of aliens or something?
Yeah, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack, but the haystack is an entire planet.
Right.
But the key is to keep learning.
Like, the more we know about Mars, the better we'll be at spotting something truly unique.
Exactly. We need that baseline understanding.
So we need to be careful about jumping to conclusions.
We need to be thorough, gather data, really build up our knowledge.
Right, and that brings us back to those sand spikes.
Yeah,
If they are a Martian version of what we see on Earth,
right.
then studying them can tell us a lot about how Mars formed.
Exactly. We can learn about its geological history, seismic activity, all sorts of things.
So even if they're natural, they're still important.
Absolutely. They hold clues to the evolution of the planet.
That's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It shows how even these little details can reveal so much.
And it makes me wonder, what if we found something that just totally broke all the rules?
What do you mean?
Like, what if it didn't fit with any of our ideas about geology or physics?
Oh, wow.
Would we even be able to recognize it for what it was?
That's a really interesting question.
Like, it would be so alien to us.
Right, it could look like magic.
It's like that, quote, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Exactly.
That's what I love about space exploration.
Me too.
It forces us to think beyond what we know.
Yeah, to acknowledge that there's so much we don't understand.
It's humbling.
It really is, and it's exciting.
For sure. And who knows what we'll find on future missions to Mars.
Every new discovery adds another piece to the puzzle.
It's like we're slowly uncovering the secrets of this planet.
And the picture is becoming more and more fascinating.
Well, you've definitely given our listener a lot to think about.
I hope so.
What are some of the key takeaways you want them to remember from this deep dive?
I hope they remember how science actually works.
Oh, yeah, like the process.
Exactly. It's all about observation, asking questions, testing, and then refining your ideas.
So not just jumping to conclusions.
Definitely not. It's about gathering evidence.
Building that knowledge.
Yeah. And sometimes the most interesting discoveries are the ones that give you more questions than answers.
Oh, that's true.
It makes you rethink everything you thought you knew.
It's like those bone-like spikes on Mars.
Yeah,
Even if they're natural, they got people talking.
they sure did.
And it shows how much we still have to learn about Mars.
Absolutely.
It's exciting, though.
Oh, for sure.
So what would we need to do to really solve this mystery?
Well, if we could send a rover back to that spot,
Yeah.
we'd need to get a closer look at those spikes. Take some high-resolution images.
Right, so we can see all the little details.
And we'd want to analyze what they're made of.
Oh, right, like what kind of minerals are in there.
Exactly, because that could tell us a lot about how they formed.
It's like a CSI team, but for Mars.
Yeah, like a Martian crime scene investigation.
But we'd also need to look at the area around the spikes.
Right? Absolutely.
Like, were there any earthquakes or volcanic eruptions?
Right, or maybe even signs of ancient water.
All that could have shaped those spikes.
It all plays a role.
Sounds like we need a lot of different tools to figure this out.
We need a whole arsenal of scientific instruments.
And hopefully technology will keep getting better.
I think it will.
And we'll be able to send even more advanced rovers to Mars.
Yeah, ones that can do even more detailed analysis.
It's really amazing what we can do now.
It is. And it's only going to get more amazing.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive.
I agree.
We've covered so much.
It's really made me think.
It reminds us that space exploration isn't just about finding answers.
Yeah, it's more about asking the right questions.
And being ready for anything.
Exactly. The universe is full of surprises.
And Mars is just one piece of that puzzle.
But it's a pretty important piece.
So to everyone listening out there, keep looking up at the stars.
Keep asking those questions.
And never stop exploring.
The adventure is just beginning.
That's right. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.